everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Genius Plus Twins. This is Mrs. Spadal, and today we're going to be talking about something really important called self-monitoring, our reading. This is a skill that can help you become a stronger, more confident reader, and I'm excited to share it with you. You might be wondering, what is self-monitoring? Well, self-monitoring is all about checking in with yourself while you read. It's that little voice in your head that asks questions like, am I getting this? Or does this make sense? Sometimes, while you're reading, you might think, wait, what just happened in this story? And that's actually a really good thing. Good readers listen to that voice and take action when something doesn't click. They don't just keep reading and hope things get clearer later. Instead, they stop and figure out what's going on. In this next section, we're going to look at signs that you need to slow down. There are some clear signals that tell you when it's time to pump the brakes and pay closer attention to what you're reading. These signs include things like when the words are starting to blur together on the page. Maybe you realize you've read a whole paragraph but can't remember what it said. Almost like your eyes were moving, but your brain wasn't really taking anything in. Another sign is when characters or events seem to appear out of nowhere, and you feel lost or confused about what's happening in the story. And sometimes you'll notice that your mind is wandering to other things, like what you're going to do after school or what you're having for dinner. When any of these things happen, it's your brain telling you that you need to change something about how you're reading. So, what can you do? One of the most important things you can do when you realize you're not understanding what you're reading is to slow down and reread. Sometimes you just need to go back a sentence or a paragraph and read it again. But this time, more carefully or without distractions. There's nothing wrong with rereading something. In fact, it's one of the smartest things you can do as a reader. Here are some additional options to try. Beyond rereading, there are several other strategies you can use to help yourself understand better. First, you can make pictures in your mind. Try to visualize what's happening in the story and imagine the information you're learning about. If the book is describing a forest, picture the trees and the sunlight filtering through the leaves. If you're reading about how plants grow, imagine the seeds sprouting and pushing up through the soil. You can also ask yourself questions as you read. Questions like, who is this character? Or what just happened? Or why did that occur? They can help you stay engaged and make sure you're following along. Don't be afraid to pause and answer these questions for yourself before moving forward. Another helpful strategy is to use context clues. If you hit a word you don't know, look at the words around it for hints about its meaning. The sentences before and after an unfamiliar word often give you clues that help you figure out what it means without having to stop and look it up. Now let's talk about making connections. Think about how what you're reading connects to your own life, other books you've read, or things you already know. When you make these connections, reading becomes more meaningful and easier to understand. If a character is nervous about a test, you might connect that to a time when you felt that same way. If you're reading about the ocean, you might think about a time you went to the beach, or another book you read about sea creatures. It's also important to take breaks. If your brain feels tired, it's okay to pause and come back to your reading later. Reading takes mental energy, and sometimes you need to give your brain a rest so you can come back refreshed and ready to focus. Here are what some best readers do. Here's something really important to remember. The best readers aren't the ones who never get confused. They're the ones who notice when they're confused and do something about it. Everyone gets confused sometimes, even adults, and even the most skilled readers. What makes someone a good reader is recognizing when they're lost and using strategies to get back on track. Now, it's your turn. So now I want you to go read and practice self-monitoring. Pay attention to that voice in your head. Notice when things don't make sense, and use the strategies we talked about today. Until next time, this is Mrs. Spadell. Happy reading, everyone.